So good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining. We've got some exciting talent here for you this morning, and we really want to share with you a bit about what it's like to join the rail industry, particularly through apprenticeships. Now, I'm of the view that we lie to young people quite a lot as adults. We lie to you, we tell you there's something called Santa, and we're all in on that lie. We tell you about the tooth fairy. We tell you other lies as well, don't we, as we go along? But perhaps the most important lie is that we don't give you the full story of what different industries are and what they do and what they can do for you. So we're trying to put that right. So we are something called Routes into Rail, which is a special thing to try and encourage young people to make informed career choices, particularly about joining the rail industry. And I'm delighted to let you know that we've got some really top people for you today from HS2, which is a very exciting new rail line you'll have heard about. We've got Danielle. We've got Ben from Siemens, who's looking after trains and managing a team. And we've got Andrew from Volker Vessels, and my colleague Sarah, who looks across all the apprenticeships. So she knows what she doesn't know about apprenticeships. It's not worth knowing. And we'll be hearing from actual companies, actual apprentices, or people that work with apprentices, and giving you some ideas of where you can apply as well. So I'm Neil Robertson. I'm the Chief Executive of NSAR, which is a special body all to do with training and skills in the rail industry. And this is Apprenticeship Week, and we're big supporters of that. And we're biased because we think apprenticeships are the best way to get into jobs. And my first job was an apprentice quantity surveyor. So we know a little bit about what we're talking about. So the first thing we wanted to do was to share the agenda with you. So this is the plan. So you'll be with us for the next hour or so, I hope. And thank you so much for joining, by the way. There's already 400 people in the room, which is brilliant. So that's what we're going to be going through. You can see that we're obsessed with pictures of stations and trains. But the first thing probably to say is there's 250,000 jobs in the rail industry, and there's a whole lot of jobs to do with finance, management, accounting, those kinds of jobs that have nothing to do with trains, but it's such a big industry it supports those kinds of jobs. So, you know, if your passion is accounting, but you want to work in the rail industry, great. We love you. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing, and we want to start with a general introduction. So we've made a video for you, and with the help of my colleague Sarah, I think we'll play the video for you now.
A career in rail means much more than high-vis jackets and checking tickets. At Routes into Rail, discover hundreds of exciting roles in a sector that never stops moving. It's an industry full of innovative designers and engineers, software developers and data analysts, marketeers and commercial professionals. Working around the world, they're taking on the challenge of transforming transport systems, making them smarter, faster, and better for the environment. Want to join them? There's a career for everyone. And if you've got the skills, passion, and potential, we've got roles ready and waiting. Supported by industry leaders, Routes into Rail is a brand new platform packed with all the information you need to embark on your career path. From building trains to building relationships, watch insider videos to learn what a life in rail can look like, and search for the latest opportunities to get your career on the right track. Visit routesintorail.org to find out more. Think differently, think smarter, think rail.
Thank you for that. Not going to win any MTV awards, but I hope you clocked the website that's called Routes into Rail, which we've put together for you. It's got information, all the things you need to progress in the industry, look for apprenticeships, all of that kind of stuff. So that's routesintorail.org. So please look at that. Okay, so if we can start the slideshow again, I can manage that. I think it's usually young people who are much better at this sort of stuff than me. And we've been joined by Andrew there. Andrew, welcome. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Hi there.
So, just a couple of minutes for me on really the sort of big picture before we jump into the interesting stuff from the real people. So, really, why should you care about rail as a career? You know, it could sound a bit old-fashioned and all the rest of it, but that couldn't be further from the truth. But the reality is we've not been very good at explaining it recently, which is why we're doing this, because everyone's agreed we've got to get better explaining it to you. So as mentioned, we've got jobs in engineering, of course, and you're going to hear a bit about that today. IT and technology is the fastest growing part of the industry. All the usual business management type roles, human resources, all of that. Data analytics. If you're the data cruncher type, we've got lots of vacancies in that. Really fast growing part. All the trains, Ben might mention this, the trains collect data about the track as they go along the track. We've got so much data. Operations, that's the most important bit in some ways, because that makes sure the trains don't crash into each other. So it's a big responsibility. And of course, and Danielle will say more about this, we're building new stations. Wait till you guys, I know Crossrail's been delayed, but wait till you get a chance to see the Crossrail stations. They are stunning. They were designed by architects, and we need those. And also, HS2 is a massive ecological project, planting millions of trees, and we've got lots of ecologists and archaeologists, would you believe it? Danielle's boss is obsessed with archaeologists. So we've got lots of archaeologists digging around, digging up bones and old dogs and things like that wherever they go. And the other good thing is you don't have to go to London, because here's the news. The railway's everywhere, or nearly everywhere. And therefore you can stay in the place you want to be in rather than move to the place where they charge you £5 for an avocado sandwich. So that's a good thing, and and please remember that. And here's the secret bit, right? And people are embarrassed about this, and they say, shh, don't tell them, Neil. Rail is quite well paid, yeah. Ben's probably got a Lamborghini, and I hate to think what Andrew's driving, but actually, wages, and NSAR does all this stuff. Wages in rail are higher than other sectors, but don't tell anybody, because we're not really supposed to tell you that, because it's like Santa. It's supposed to be a secret. It's supposed to be something you find out when it's too late. But I'm sorry, we're breaking the rules. There we are. Rail is well paid. And there's a lot of money being spent on rail, so it's got a future. Trains will be around long after I'm dead and you're dead. The train's already 150 years old, and because we need to improve the environment, trains have got a really bright future. So Andrew, thank you for joining us today, and over to you. Andrew, you might be on mute. I'm not sure. There's that button at the top.
Is that on now?
Now we can hear you now. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us.
I've had a lot of technical difficulties this morning. Now I'm on my phone as well, so please forgive me. But thanks very much for the opportunity to speak. So
Brilliant.
I'm at Volker Rail. I'm a signalling engineering manager and an ex-apprentice myself. And my role at Volker Rail over the last 8 years, we've been taking on engineering apprentices since 2013. We've had 27 engineering apprentices in that time in our reasonably small area of the business that's been expanding year on year, which has been fantastic to be a part of. And on the right there, you can see one of our current apprentices, which Jack Bridden, who's just about to finish his apprenticeship, and he's given a bit of a speech of what he thinks about them. So, yeah, what apprenticeships do we do? I guess is the first question I was asking. So, the current apprentices that we've got a level 2 rail engineering operative in signalling. So, signalling, for anybody that doesn't know, is what we mentioned earlier. What stops trains crashing into each other is its basic term. What our business does is we put in new signalling systems, whenever they're needed for whichever client. That could be for Network Rail or for Metro railway services as well. So that apprenticeship operative one is associated looking at people who will go on and do the installation of the signalling equipment. And then we're doing a level 3 rail engineering technician apprenticeship, which doesn't really have an end point in terms of where we expect an apprentice to go, because as I'll go into a little bit further down, people who've completed the apprenticeships go into various different things. So then again, when we do these apprenticeships, we'll have a cohort that we take on this year. The advertisements will be out very, very soon. What kind of person are we looking for? So I guess this wouldn't be any different to any job. Would be people you want you to be motivated and enthusiastic. Problem solving. So engineering, just as a function, is there to solve problems. Basically, is what it does, and it's done that by inventing equipment or circuits or some other means to be able to solve a problem. Challenging and critical thinking. So what I mean by that is that just not accepting what's put in front of us. What is our status quo? We really appreciate that we want people to look at something and say, why on earth is that needed? Is there another way that can be better? And what I haven't wrote on here, what's really important in our recruitment processes, we're really interested in people being able to collaborate and work together in a team scenario. So there'll be scenarios that are problems to solve, and we're really looking for a group of people can collaborate and ensure that you create an environment where everybody wins. So in our environment, we install signalling engineering equipment, but its purpose is because we want trains to run well, to run safely, and for the passengers to have a good experience. So it's really important that we make sure that we don't just deliver our engineering well while making all them other things suffer. We make sure that we deliver something to everybody's satisfaction. So post-apprenticeship, what do our apprentices go on to do? So I've mentioned before, they go on to do installation and testing engineers. So in signalling, we have an independence between all the different functions of design, installing the equipment, and then the person who tests to make sure that it works successfully. So that's what they go on to do. Project engineers, which is where I sit in this business, which is an engineer that makes sure that whatever is designed can be built and can be tested, and it meets the satisfaction of the client and any requirements that we've been given in terms of what contracts that we're putting some installation equipment in. And then lastly, project managers. We've got a couple of people that have gone on to do project management post apprenticeship. And I guess what I've just wanted to show there is that the opportunities post apprenticeship is very diverse. It's on the needs of the business as much as the talent of the individual and where they sort of best sit. And then lastly, just wanted to say that I'm talking specifically about engineering apprenticeships because that's what I do. But at Volker Rail, we've got a number of other apprenticeships that we've got people that are working on. So we have a commercial academy where we have a group of people training to be quantity surveyors. What does a quantity surveyor do? They make sure that contracts are administered. They make sure that we build up prices correctly. We make sure that we get paid for the work that we do. Then we've got a project manager.
As a former quantity surveyor, I'm just going to help Andrew with that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Andrew's an engineer. Engineers like to waste money all the time. Every day they would waste money. So they need quantity surveyors to stop them wasting money.
How dare you? I would say I disagree, but I can. And the last one we've got is we do a project management academy also. So that's as it says on the tin. We train future project managers, but also a really key function of engineering delivery is project planners. So people putting together really detailed plans that start and the beginning and the end. So like the big infrastructure project at HS2 that's just been talked about, that'll have a really detailed plan that says how on earth right now at the end in 2040, I think was just mentioned that we've got a railway that runs. So that's
Andrew, brilliant. Thank you. So Andrew, you're a former apprentice and you're now a manager. So that shows the career. How many people have you got working for you now?
So staff, I've got 25 staff work with me at the moment, and then indirectly, a few more.
Yeah. So you see, I mean, in rail, my board members, at one time, more than half of my board members were former apprentices. So in some industries, I'm not going to name them because I'll get into trouble, But in some industries, you do an apprenticeship and people sort of say, well, that's great, you know, you stay in the corner. Not in rail. In rail, apprenticeships are a route to the top. And we want Andrew to stay in the UK, but Andrew could go anywhere in the world tomorrow with the skills he's got and get a job. But Andrew, just stay where you are, okay? Because you wouldn't like the food. So stay there. But it's true that people can travel. Any of the things that have been mentioned today, you can take all around the world. And British apprenticeships, I know this sounds like a bit sort of weird thing to say, but British apprenticeships are designed very carefully, and companies and countries all around the world want to use our apprenticeship standards. So I was on the phone yesterday to Malaysia, who want to use our standards. Now, Andrew, Simone's asked, are girls allowed to work in your business, in your apprenticeships?
Absolutely, yes. We really encourage it. You know, sadly, I'd say that the balance isn't great for us with girls being interested from our perspective in terms of taking a career on there. But we've had girls come through our apprenticeship scheme successfully. And yeah, absolutely, girls. We'd welcome girls to come work in engineering roles on the track side, definitely.
And Andrew, do these girls need to be like, you know, gladiators that have to lift really heavy things? Or have you got modern machinery that helps with that kind of thing?
Absolutely not. Yeah, work smarter, not harder. So we look to get machines to do as much of the heavy lifting as possible for various reasons. One, because it's hard, but two, because health and safety is of prime importance. So we just need to make sure we do as much as we can, as smart as we can. So absolutely not. There's no need to be lifting heavy weights or anything like that.
Simone, thank you so much for asking that question. That is absolutely the case. We are obsessed with health and safety, rightly so. We will not ask you to lift anything that's too heavy. So Williams asked a question that, Andrew, you might not know this, but when will your next round of apprenticeships be released?
They'll be released at the latest in March. We're just talking about them right now. In the last week, we're just getting the adverts sorted out, and then we'll be releasing the advert out with a view to take people on in September.
So brilliant, thank you, Andrew. Where are you based?
So we've got the physical offices, main offices we've got are in Manchester, Doncaster, and Birmingham. Our head office is Doncaster. However, our work is UK wide. So whilst it's beneficial, I guess, to live closer to one of them offices, it's not essential. Brilliant,
thank you, Andrew. So sounds like a bit German, but a proper northern company with real fantastic jobs, and we're big fans of Volker here at NSAR. Okay, there's a question here about a young man who has sight loss, and I mentioned earlier we're really committed to disability, and I can't say anything specific on that, but I know that all of the companies who offer apprenticeships are very aware of diversity and are anxious to involve everybody. So there will be something that we have that will be relevant for your son. So thank you, Faye John or John Faye. So thank you for that question, Ethan. I don't think we are recording this. Ethan's got short-term memory problems and can't remember the presentations. I'm only joking, Ethan. There is a lot of information here. We will put these slides onto the Roots into Rail website, won't we, Sarah? Yeah. So we're not recording it, but go to the Roots into Rail website, and all the information from this will be there. And if you want to email any of our speakers, we won't put their email addresses up there, but you email Roots into Rail, and we'll make sure that Andrew, and you're about to hear from Ben, and also Daniela will ask your question.
I'm just letting you know, no, it is being recorded. So
well, it is, Ethan. It's all right. You can just relax. It's all being recorded. Okay, sorry. Now, Harry, you've asked about AI, and AI is a great technology, and the rail industry has been slower to come to it than others, but we're getting there now. So, for example, NSAR will soon be looking for an apprentice in AI, and we see lots of roles being created for this. Ben might mention this, and I know that Siemens are very interested in AI, and I also know there's quite a lot of data work happening in HS2. So thank you. The answer is a resounding yes. Okay, so we're making progress, and I'm very delighted now to introduce Ben. So Ben is a young rail professional, which is our club of mentoring and support and energetic young people who are keen to explain the industry to other people. And Ben's had a really interesting background, and he has been an apprentice himself, first with the Navy, and now works for Siemens, who are one of the biggest suppliers into rail. So Ben, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Over to you.
Morning. Firstly, apologies for the slide. I feel as though I've let the team down a little bit with my my slide abilities.
It's dull as hell, Ben, but you're interested, so you can make up for it.
So I've got a slightly different path into the apprenticeship scheme. Long time ago in 2003, I joined the Royal Navy, which is where I did my engineering apprentice on the Sea King helicopter. I spent a few years within the Royal Navy, not really realising how important the apprenticeship would be for the rest of my career. Did a few tours of Iraq. I went to Sierra Leone. I did a military repatriation in Sierra Leone, and we did evacuation of people from Congo and places like that. So I had quite a varied career within the military. From there,
so you jumped out of a plane or a helicopter, grabbed somebody, put them back in the helicopter, and flew away whilst people were firing guns at you.
I'm afraid my career in the military wasn't that exciting. I fixed the helicopter when it returned.
Right, so that was the most important thing, because if you hadn't done that, nobody would have got back, right?
Precisely.
Correct. And patched up the bullet holes in it as well.
Yeah, and that, yeah. In 2008, I moved to a civvy company where I repaired helicopters for people with far too much money, footballers, business owners, that sort of thing.
Rail apprentices.
Rail apprentices, yeah, absolutely. I think knowing the amount that they earn, they would be on board with the helicopter purchases. I did that for a few years, and a friend of mine that was in the military, that I was in the military with, that I did the apprenticeship with, said that he was working for Alstom at the time on the Pendolino contract in Manchester. Sounded very interesting, and a contracting role came up with Northern Rail, which I moved across to reluctantly from a permanent position, which again massively opened the doors. One of the biggest prerequisites.
So we in rail we've got a number of kinds of jobs, but there are jobs where you've got permanent positions, normal sort of lifelong contract, or you get contractor jobs which say come and do this particular piece of work for a particular period of time, and you're often self-employed sometimes when you do that, and those can be more highly paid, more flexible, but if you like, less predictable. Of course, the big worry everybody has is will I get another one? And it's fair to say that there are very few contractors who have long gaps between their contracts. Is that fair, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the biggest prerequisites for this employment was an apprenticeship. I needed to prove that I'd done an apprenticeship to be able to gain this role. So that was the realization that my Royal Navy career was massively important to be able to get into the railway industry. From there, when I joined Northern, I did a 6-month contract, which led on to a permanent position, thankfully. So I went from doing some modifications overnight to becoming the reliability team leader in Newton Heath in Manchester, where we were looking at data taken from failures in service and creating packages of improvements on the trains for improving the reliability. And we made a massive difference. It was quite a new team that was set up in their head office, and we flew the flag in Manchester. And from there, I did some continuous improvement with Northern Rail as well. So, it opened the doors up massively to diversify into a different sector within the rail industry. And I did about 15 months continuous improvement, moving from depot to depot, doing observations and putting in different patterns of improvements there. An opportunity opened up at Siemens, and this is in Ardwick. So my current role, well, I was a supervisor, shift supervisor for a while, and then I moved into the production management role there. We look after 51 of TransPennine's fleet. They're Siemens manufactured trains. So Siemens not only do signalling, but they do rolling stock as well. And in fact, they're tendering for the HS2 rolling stock at the moment. So fingers crossed we'll be successful. They're building a huge plant in Goole currently, which is where we are manufacturing the new deep tube trains that we won a contract for last year. And that's hopefully going to be our hub for building our rolling stock for the future with a test track as well, hopefully. For myself, I joined the YRP in 2018, which is the Young Rail Professionals. I'm not that young, but I was told that it was young in your career in the rail industry, so I just slipped under the door with that one. I'm now the Northwest Chair, so I chair the regional group. And what the YRP does lots of events, and it's set up as a big sort of networking group. I had no idea the different areas that existed within the rail industry. I've got a finance manager that's my vice chair. I've got a recruitment agent that's our network and developing manager. I've got somebody that does routes that's working within the group. I've got somebody that works for the railway charity, the Railway Benevolent Fund, who's the Interrail manager, so they do a lot of STEM stuff. I've got somebody that works for Arup, and they're like a contracting firm that look at design. They played a big part within the Metrolink within Manchester. So that opened up a lot of doors to me again, and it's all from having my apprenticeship within the Royal Navy that allowed me to recognise how amazing the railway was. And then to 2019, end of 2019, I was made aware by my wife of the apprenticeship levy because I wanted to do some further studying. And I joined the Institution of Leadership and Management to do a national diploma in leadership and management through the apprenticeship levy. So became an apprentice all over again, essentially, which is fantastic. It's a great opportunity. It's a very expensive course that's being organised and paid for, not by me, and will give me a diploma at the end of it, which I should hopefully be able to build on, and will give me the footings for me to progress in my career further in management. That's my history. But as for Siemens, again, we're recruiting massively for apprentices again this year. The experience that I've had with apprenticeship recruiting, I have done some interviews on depot, bringing on a couple of guys. We tend to have 1 to 2 people on our depot per year that come through. It's a 3-year apprenticeship with us. Again, you get paid, I believe it's starting around 16. By year 3, you're earning sort of 22. And then you get a T2 job, which is a technician's job, and it's about 40 grand a year, if I'm honest with you, straight away. So, you know, the salaries are fantastic, but you have to work hard, and it's a tough environment, apprenticeships. There are a lot of people applying for the roles. You need to be bold. You need to really concentrate on what your goal is and put that across. And for all the people that are asking whether girls can do various roles, girls can do any job within the railway, absolutely any job, and we welcome it. We've had a few technician apprentices that have come through, and I know that Northern Rail have got some case studies on for National Apprenticeship Week of the apprentices that they've got at Allerton and at Newton Heath. So yeah, that's my journey.
Yeah, thank you so much. What a great story, and you look pretty young to me, so there's so much ahead of you. And how many people do you manage now?
So I have a team of 10, but as a shift-based production manager, essentially I'm a depot manager, but with 5 others over shift base. So whoever's on site, it's my responsibility, and that can be from 20 to 50 staff.
So you see big responsibilities, big pay. Ben was very honest there. It's a competitive environment to get in, and we want people. We don't care what you look like, which football team you support, whether you're a boy or a girl. We want people that are got something about them, with energy and purpose, as Ben really brilliantly put it there. And I hope you noticed there that Ben's had basically 2 separate educations already, and he looks about 15 to me, but I'm sure he's old. And he hasn't paid for
36, I'm afraid.
That's young. He hasn't paid for either of his educations. They've been paid for by somebody else. That's a great thing about an apprenticeship. So that's the deal. You work hard and we'll pay for your training.
Yeah.
And you won't have lots of debt, but you will have to earn your money. And that's the deal. And it's quite simple. And the news, that you can tell whether it's good or not because people leave. Okay? So some sectors have a turnover of 30% a year. That means if there's 3 people in the industry, 1 leaves every year. Rail has got one of the lowest turnovers of any industry, which tells you one simple thing. People that get in it, stay in it.
I was told it was a job for life when I joined. That was
it.
The day I walked through the door at my depot, you've got a job for life. And it is. If you play it right, it absolutely is.
And there's not many of those anymore, actually, is the truth. So there's still something really special about that. Okay, so big thank you to Ben. Keep the questions coming in. So we've put up the Siemens jobs, Ben, that you mentioned. They're gone on. They're up on the website, so that's good. So there'll be time at the end just for a few more questions, but I'm going to move now to my colleague to mention one quick case study, and then my colleague Sarah. So for all you budding digital people out there, I mentioned that we're looking for a new apprentice in ENSA. We had Matt. So that was a level 6 apprenticeship. So that was a degree apprenticeship. So it's a 4-year program. Matt's a day a week at uni, and he's already doing all sorts of stuff that I don't understand what he does. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. He uses words like Python, and I thought that was a snake, but it turns out it's something digital. But the point is, Matt, just a young man, he's transforming ENSA already. And we like Matt so much, we want another Matt, and that's what I mentioned earlier about the AI. So the next one will be doing more AI and data analytics. Ladies and gentlemen, a secret is that data is the future. And if you're interested in data, you're made. And even if you're not that interested in it, try and get interested in it, because it will be important for everybody. Every job will work with data in future. And I'm sure that Andrew and Ben would both agree that there's lots of data in their work.
Absolutely. We've even for an aging rolling stock like the 185s, we have various systems on there that tell us how hot the engines are if they're overheating, where things have shut down, and we're able to access that from the depot and preempt any maintenance that we need to do, or take a train out of service if it looks like there's going to be a failure. So data is massively important, even on a slightly older fleet. The new stuff's going to be even more.
So you know what's wrong with the train, at least partly, before it comes into the depot?
Pretty much we can diagnose it and make sure that we've got the material ready to repair it for when it comes out of traffic.
Great. And Ollie's asked, what's the best way to become a train driver or a guard? The best way is to apply to so Ben mentioned a company called Northern. The people that run the trains are called train operating companies. And you know, there's lots of different ones. There's one in your area. And they are always looking for guards and sometimes looking for train drivers. That's an apprenticeship too. It's the biggest demand we have for any apprenticeship is train driver. It's a ridiculously well-paid job. And everybody in the world, I wanted to be a train driver when I was young. It's very hard to get into it, but they are apprenticeships all the time. So please check your local train operating company. And, you know, so Northern, if you're in Northern, if you're in, well, I live in Surrey, although I don't sound like it. So South Western Railways is my local one. So if you go on their website, but also on Routes into Rail, we talk about that kind of thing as well. So
top tip with that, just look for where the expansion is with new rolling stock. And you will find that some TOCs are looking for experience, but in my experience, Northern certainly have been one of the champions for for looking for people from a fresh. So if you see in anywhere that's introducing new rolling stock, 9 times out of 10 they'll be looking for drivers, and being a guard seems to be quite a good avenue in. If you can learn that experience first, then you sort of at the front of the pecking order for a driving career as well.
Great advice from Ben. I would echo that. You know, if you're a guard, you'll be well positioned, but not guaranteed, but well positioned. Williams just said the last word on Northern for a train driver was age 20 plus. That's the law. We're changing the law so that it be 18 plus in future. For some reason, they didn't trust 18-year-olds with trains, and then but then now we've worked out that was a silly rule. There's no basis for it whatsoever. It was just based on old-fashioned notions. You know, you get good drivers and bad drivers, and we'll only employ the good ones, and that's regardless of age. In terms, Andrew, anything you'd want to add on the data point?
Yeah, so similarly to the trains technology on the track side, there's remote condition technology also plays a huge part in targeted maintenance of the assets, because the previous maintenance regimes used to be go around and do checks quarter yearly and yearly, rather than and sometimes they'd be necessary, sometimes they'd be too late, sometimes there'd have been an unnecessary check. With remote condition monitoring, using the data, looking at the different voltages and operating voltages and things like that of the equipment, you can see when something's about to fail, and therefore it sends an indication back to a technician to say, right, there's some targeted maintenance or renewal to do. So data is hugely important in terms of managing the assets on the railway.
Thank you, Andrew. So if you think Python's a snake, forget about it. But if you know what Python is that isn't a snake, get in touch. Okay, now Sarah's been waiting very patiently, and we've only got a few minutes left because we've had such brilliant questions. But Sarah, over to you to say something more generally about all the opportunities.
Yeah, that's fine. So as mentioned before, an apprenticeship is something that it's an opportunity to actually learn a qualification, but not only that, you're earning a salary, you're earning a wage, and you're also getting the employee benefits with it too. So as mentioned before by everyone in the actual call itself, the apprenticeships is not something that you pay for. So there's no cost to do an apprenticeship. All the costing for it is funded by either your employer or the government itself. And dependent on the actual qualification itself and the experience, there's no actual prerequisite to actually get into it. If you don't have GCSEs, you can easily do functional skills whilst you're doing your apprenticeship itself. So you'll earn your functional skills level 2, and you'll get and gain a qualification, and obviously the wage as well. As we know it, within the rail industry, rail isn't only about rail and tracks. Rail also includes different departments that actually help it run its day-to-day activity. So the typical departments are business, IT, networking, project management, leadership management, media. There's so many different roles or departments you can actually do to actually get into the rail industry itself. It's not only rail and track. So some of the hints and tips that I've been asked to provide you guys. One thing that I want you to think about is the route that you want to get into. So whether it be digital, finance, management, project management, whatever it is, think about the route that you want to get into. Once you've kind of identified the route, go into the Institute for Apprenticeship Technical Education website and look at the different roles within those routes itself. So for instance, if you have digital and you want to go into digital, there are different roles you can do, which can be networking, cybersecurity, software developer. If you want to go into finance, there's payroll assistant, debt advisor, accounts and finance assistant. There are so many different roles that you can get into. So don't be put off by the title of the route itself. So even though it says digital, there's different roles that you can get into. So once you've actually found the roles and the routes that you're interested in, go to the company websites, go to job centers, go to jobs resource sites, and actually find organizations that will help you meet the need for you to actually go into that apprenticeship. But one thing I want you to think about, don't only look at big, huge organizations, large organizations. Small organizations also are looking for apprenticeships and apprentices. So widen your searches. If you've already done a degree, you can actually still do another apprenticeship, as Ben mentioned earlier on. So as long as it's a new skill, you can do an apprenticeship in anything that you want to do. It depends on the route, look into it. Finally, what I want to actually say as well, if you are already in a job and you want to upskill yourself, you can actually do this. So you can actually ask your organization to put you on an apprenticeship and say, I want to get into something else. If you're a team leader, you can do an apprenticeship and upskill yourself to becoming a manager itself. So there's so many different roles you can get into and do.
Thank you, Sarah, so much. And if you go on to that rootsintorail.org right now, there are over 1,000 vacancies, which are jobs, not all apprenticeship vacancies. They show you the kind of jobs that are available. And as you've heard, HS2, Volker and Siemens are all recruiting. A huge thank you to you for coming. A huge thank you to Ben, Andrew, Daniela and Sarah for sharing their knowledge and experience and answering your good questions and my annoying questions. Thank you again. You know where to go for further information. This was all being recorded. Please remember rail as you think of the future. It's the smart thing to do. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.